It's something of a tradition that Peaky Blinders ends each series with all guns blazing. There was Grace's showdown with Major Campbell in Series 1, and last year saw the mass arrests. The climax to Series 4, however, arguably came two-thirds of the way through the episode, when Tommy Shelby kept his promised meeting in Margate with Alfie Solomons, a meeting from which only one of them could emerge. It was inevitable that the cancer-stricken Alfie, riddled with it, Tommy, who ended up bleeding his life out with only his dog cereal for comfort, would make way, and the show will be considerably the poorer for the absence of Tom Hardy. Inevitable, but not without consequence. One of the most interesting things about Peaky Blinders has always been the suggestion that Tommy is not actually impervious to the damage he wreaks. And so it proved as the end of Changreta's vendetta, Alfie's death and some ill-advised time off playing golf triggered a gin-driven existential crisis in the Shelby leader. He pulled his way out of it, thanks largely to Polly, but the question remains, what kind of a man is Tommy Shelby? The ending saw Tommy, now the newly elected Labour MP for Birmingham South, celebrate with friends and family. Certainly, this Thomas Shelby had no qualms about betraying Jessie or using her to get what he desired. It was a smart, bittersweet ending and one I enjoyed, although it felt more like the end of the entire show, and I do wonder where the show and Stephen Knight intend to go now. Our heroes, if the ending was downbeat, the opening certainly wasn't. I don't know about the rest of you, but I was completely fooled by Arthur's apparent death, not least because the entire episode seemed to have a certain amount of clearing the decks going on. I'm not generally a fan of sudden resurrections, but in this case, I think it worked. I was sad that there no longer appears any chance of Arthur building a peaceful life in the country, particularly now Linda appears to have chosen cocaine over the saving of souls. Arthur wasn't the only Shelby facing a reckoning. As Michael found himself exiled to New York, I knew Tommy wouldn't forgive him, not mentioning the plot with Luca and poor gentle Finn was forced to embrace his Peaky heritage. Meanwhile, Lizzie gave birth to a daughter, Ruby, and appeared to have strengthened her position in Tommy's life, if not her claim on his heart. Polly appeased her demons and saved her son, while Ada continued to watch from the sidelines, no doubt silently noting that Tommy's cock can indeed stop the revolution. Talking of the infamous Shelby appendage, the only part of the episode I wasn't sure about was the use of Jesse Eden. While it's certainly arguable that both Jesse and Tommy are both trying to convert the other, and arguable, too, that Tommy is simply playing all sides, King, Communists, the Labour Party, for the greater glory of the Shelby Company, I remain a little uneasy with the ending's suggestion that Jesse was now on the Shelby team and helping Tommy's campaign. It felt rather as though it was doing a disservice to the real-life Jesse Eden, a committed Communist Party member. The bad guys. The big question about this series of Peaky Blinders was who was the real villain? Luca Changreta, who brought vendetta to Small Heath? The mysterious Aberama Gold, with his Western-style notions of vengeance? Solomons, who manipulated his own death by betraying Tommy? Or, as the crisis towards the end suggested, Tommy's own nature? As the episode progressed, it became clear it certainly wasn't Changreta. Luca turned out to be little more than a spoilt mama's boy with grand ideas, who was rather too easily outsmarted thanks to a few well-placed phone calls. Never let it be said that Tommy doesn't have the contact book to end them all. I wasn't particularly a fan of Al Capone's Deus Ex Machina, although it was clearly signposted by Alfie's initial conversation about big beating small, and it certainly made sense that Luca had been so obsessed by his vendetta he'd failed to pay attention to events back home. Plus, there was some justice in the fact that the old ways triumphed and Arthur pulled the trigger in the end. As for the show's other possible villain, Aberama Gold, he never really came into focus. Was he a good man or a bad one? Someone worth having on side, or just an opportunist? Perhaps we will have a clearer idea in the new series, if as expected, he steps into the sadly vacated Alfie Solomon's role of sometime ally sometime enemy. Personally, I found the blank-eyed Bonnie Gold to be an altogether more terrifying prospect. His bloodlust is of the kind that might even make Arthur pause for thought. Additional notes of all the many things I love about Tom Hardy's performance as Alfie Solomons, I think my favorite was that he ensured there was a dog present to lick his blood at the end. I was actually screaming at the screen just listen to Arthur, Tommy during the boxing match. Hurrah for the sudden appearance of Carlos Arthur's fake funeral cortege drove through Small Heath. Not abandoned in Boston after all. The best news of the night was that Mr. Devlin was allowed to go to Glasgow and his family. Safe journey, Mr. Devlin, and whatever you do, don't look back. Anachronistic yet strangely right song of the week. While it was fitting that Tommy had his existential crisis to the somber strains of Radiohead, in a Laura Marling heavy week, she also did the version of Red Right Hand at the beginning. I'm giving this to her beautiful cover of A Hard Rain's Agana Fall, one of my favorite Dylan songs. Quote of the week: tempting as it is to give this to walking quote machine Alfie Solomons. The most important moment of the night was Polly's advice to Tommy about how to deal with his demons. We live somewhere between life and death, waiting to move on, and in the end we accept it. We shake hands with the devils and we walk past them. Finally, a big thank you to everyone who has posted below the line each week. It's been a pleasure. Happy Christmas. Now help yourself to a glass of Mr. Shelby's special gin and drink any and off-season sadness away. Speculation and spoilers welcome below.